Greetings shippers, welcome back. And you guys said that you wanted a bit more videos like this, just the more rambling, loose, chit-chat style. So I thought that this would be a great time to talk about some more obscure ships and ones that occur in places that one may not necessarily expect. Now, of course, for the seasoned shipper, ships can happen anytime, anywhere, any place. However, be that as it may, there are still certain outings or certain works where it is more apparent that shipping will occur. There are certain tropes, certain themes, or certain genres where it's just more likely that shipping will occur, particularly in your large ensemble casts or genre works. So it can be that when one is indulging in material that does not necessarily fall into the typical shipping categories, a ship can arise and take them aback, or at least a bit by surprise. Such was the case for some who watched 2015's Burnt. Burnt, while it contains many high-class actors, is a Bradley Cooper vehicle, and slightly Oscar-baity. So before we get into the ship, let us discuss the premise. Burnt is the tale of Adam Jones, a high-class and burnt-out, pun intended, chef. He was working his way up the ranks trying to get that third Michelin star, but then it all fell apart. So he's back, and he's curbed his demons, allegedly, and he is gonna go for that third star. The thing with this film is that it starts off with Adam Jones already past the recovery point, meaning that he has done the preliminary work already and is on to the day-to-day. Now there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, except it deprives the viewer of having seen his fall, and as a result you are left only with the character as he is now. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon which type of characters you enjoy watching, he is still extremely manipulative. That means that when you hear tales of what he used to do when he was a drug addict, an alcoholic, and a sex addict, they are very similar to the things he does sober. So this film seems to focus on a redemption arc, although it is light on the redemption, and instead becomes more of a character study. And it is here that some of the more fascinating layers occur. The film very much centers upon Adam Jones's relationship with other people in his life, his ex-friends, other chefs, and romantic interests. The film presents two canonical romantic interests. One, the traditional heterosexual romantic interest, and another slightly more nuanced, one-sided homosexual romantic interest. And this is where most of the shipping occurs, between Adam Jones and Tony Balerdi. Tony is a friend from back when Adam first became a chef, so he witnessed both him at his best and as he fell and descended into his worst, and also the rise of the arrogance. So because of this, he has a fond history with Adam that many shippers were quick to gravitate towards. There is also the fact that while he is clearly in love with him, it is not unnoticed, meaning that Adam Jones is well aware of it. It is even something that they discuss at one point in the film.
Therapist got a big mouth.
Nothing you didn't know. You said in your restaurant everything was possible, but I know not everything is possible. Besides, you're not as pretty as you once were.
And later on, spoilers for anyone who actually wants to watch Burnt, stop now, get out now. Spoilers, they do share a kiss later on. So with all of that said, why is this ship surprising? Well, for two reasons. For one, it's not always typical for people to gravitate towards the canon ships within a work, although it does happen and there are exception fandoms where they are the dominant pair. However, even in this case, that doesn't really apply since Tony and Adam are not really the actual ship that the movie is pushing. Instead, that ship is between Adam and his female chef. However, you will not find many works about Adam and Helene in the fandom, and there is good reason for that, as the behavior between them is quite destructive for the most part. And this is where the flaws within the film impact shipping, taking away from that ship and adding to Adam and Tony's. So even though Adam has gone through his own brand of rehab, he is still extremely unstable, and he is very quick to take it out on his employees and underlings. For this is very much a portrayal of a chef where it is accepted, or at least tacitly accepted, that you can treat them awfully as long as you're very talented. The troubled genius trope, as it were. So because of that, our romantic lead-up between these two characters involves such things as him getting her fired from her job and forcing her to work for him in his kitchen. Also, him physically assaulting her.
You're a poison, you know that? You're a infection. Get the out of my restaurant!
The movie doesn't really provide ample reasons for her character to get over it. In fact, it is Tony who has to go and bribe her to come back and work for him. 5 times the amount of money. I don't know if it's worth it though. Physically assaulted. So because of that, people then find the building blocks that the film proceeds to place for these two relationships to be flimsy at best. He makes a cake for her daughter and eats a slice with her, but that's a very low bar to set. Most people can have cake with a child. I mean, it's cake. I'd have cake with anybody. Most people. Okay, most people. And this leads either what people view as a very strong high for the film or a flaw. That being that lots of the things happen around Adam Jones's character. He's not entirely passive, but he is almost there, in that most of the growth that he experiences is not driven from within himself, but because of circumstances that occur to him. And really, he doesn't have to change all of that much. In fact, he doesn't learn too much of a lesson. It's just that circumstances coalesce and work against him, and then everybody tells him how great he is. So really, he doesn't have to confront his manipulative tendencies. It's just that everybody is so kind to him, he slowly starts to mellow out, which for some people is a completely valid form of change, and for others really takes away from the meat of the movie, since it's supposed to be about his transformation and his action. Although, it really depends on what type of protagonist you enjoy watching. Basically, your enjoyment of this film is really going to be impacted by how much you can connect with this character. And that, of course, brings us to our ship, because a lot of the fandom is really focused on fix-its, and that being not just fixing the relationship as they see it between Tony and Adam's characters, but also in diving into the aspects of addiction and other things that they felt that the film didn't fully tackle. As Burnt is very much focused on being dramatic and having these big character set pieces, but it doesn't overly dive into the stuff beneath them. Which, of course, is fine. Not every film has to. It's just that Burnt sets itself up as a film that's going to, which is why so many people don't react very well to the breadcrumbs that it lays. So now, back to Tony. So Tony is completely love-struck. In love with Adam completely, will do anything for him and does do anything for him, and puts up with all kinds of abuses? Not quite, emotional abuses, definitely. And all of this ends up culminating with the two characters sharing a kiss. After all of these things happen to Adam, so many things, it turns out that his worst nightmare did not in fact come true, and Tony is the one to come tell him that he indeed has a second chance. And so this is where the kiss occurs.
Okay.
It's an interesting sequence because of what the film wants it to mean and what people take away from it because of their actual understanding of their relationship. So this kiss occurs as essentially a pity kiss, or what the film wants you to believe is a gratitude kiss. So Adam Jones gets up and kisses Tony as a thank you for telling him that he has the second chance. And the film plays it as if it's this wonderful acknowledgement of how much he knows that Tony cares for him, but really it just comes off as kind of cruel to kiss somebody who you know is in love with you with absolutely no intention of following through. Because the film sets this up as if this might be a moment between the two men where they might be acknowledging mutual feelings for each other. However, it is then quickly dashed because as soon as Tony leaves, Adam proceeds to make out with Elen. So it very much plays out as a pity or humoring scene and then straight back to the heteronormativity, which is unfortunate because even though neither relationship is healthy, his relationship with Tony is definitely the more nuanced and arguably the more healthy of the two. At least this never happened.
Get the f out of my restaurant!
So this is where you have a good deal of people coming into the fandom, in the fact that they want to explore this relationship more, because arguably these two are the closest in the film. Even past this scene, they share several moments. There's just a lot going on between these two characters that many found more interesting than the film's premise itself, especially as many found Adam's character to be pretty unlikable. In fact, many people gravitated towards Tony's character because he seems to be the most relatable, as not everybody can relate to being a high-powered chef sacrificing it all to cook food. It is, however, easier to relate to the character who is simply trying to hold it all together with all of these egotistical personalities working around him, as many people simply feel that that is already what they were doing in their day-to-day life, no matter what they do. So the fandom actually has an interesting array of works, from past works dealing with before the fallout, to fix-its correcting that scene and dealing with internal dialogues and internal monologues, because it's not fully clear what each character is thinking during that moment. So a lot of people extrapolate, and there's some very interesting works dealing with what Tony is feeling and what Adam is feeling. And of course, there are the fluffy they get together and everything is fine. And also, Alpha Beta Omega. Yes, you will find some Alpha Beta Omega fix in this fandom. It's a thing. Now, admittedly, some people do gravitate towards this ship because they're simply excited to see homosexuality depicted on screen, and they want to see it fleshed out and dive more into it, and for some it is simply seeing two men they find attractive kiss. However, when you dive into the fandom, you can see that people are going much deeper than that, and that this relationship for many is the crux of what makes the film. So with all of that being said, From a shipper's standpoint and from a non-shipper's standpoint, is this film worth watching? Well, if you enjoy movies about chefs and food, it is worth watching to add to your lexicon of movies you've seen about food. However, it can be a bit of a struggle if you do not take to Bradley Cooper's character, and if you do not take to him within the first 10 minutes, he's not going to get much better until about over an hour in, so it's going to take a long time before his character starts to mellow. It definitely isn't the best example of the hero with a chip on his shoulder who finds redemption, because they don't exactly handle his chip all that well, as he does a lot of awful things. However, if you enjoy films where you like watching less than ideal characters or just straight up jerks doing stuff, then this will be a good watch for you. It also can be an intriguing examination of ideas and perceptions of what is acceptable within cooking culture in different workplaces, because different workplaces very much have different ideas as to what level of toxicity is permissible, and it's very interesting to see what is portrayed as being acceptable and what is not. However, of course, if you're not interested in any of that, then this movie is definitely one to skip. Especially in this day and age where there's so many documentaries taking place within actual kitchens, so if you're interested in that, you can just take a look at how some actual chefs are running their kitchens. Now for the shipper's standpoint, is it worth it? Well, for many shippers, this was a pleasant surprise to find that this was an additional attachment that they could add to the movie, and it was intriguing to see how the different relationships were portrayed, and people do come out of this movie with other ships, although much less than this one, and this is already a small fandom. It is intriguing if you're looking to deal with an attempt at a one-sided relationship and dealing with that one-sided relationship canonically and both in fandom in a fix-it form where it becomes no longer one-sided. However, if the plot, the characters, or the actors don't appeal to you, it's really not worth putting yourself through. It is, however, if you just want to see this ship, or see if there's any chemistry, or just want to know where these gifts are coming from. It's always fascinating to see how smaller fandoms coalesce and form, and what exactly is driving them. Now, of course, Burnt was a small movie that came and went, and didn't do as much critically as they had clearly hoped for. It made its money back, but no one is probably going to be talking about it years down the road. Except for me, and other shippers, and fans of the actors. But few people outside of that. So that is why it doesn't have the largest fandom, and it is unlikely it's going to have a large resurgence. However, for the people who do watch this film and are intrigued, there is a fandom out there for you, which is one of the positives of the proliferation of fics and art due to the internet. Because there are many films that occurred before this new technology was at its zenith, and you can really tell that they would have had a lot of ships or a heavy shipping community had this type of framework been in place. So it is nice that when these odd ships or fandoms or headcanons pop up, there is a space for them to be explored and to go. Now, of course, lest we forget, there are many reasons also not to ship this ship, particularly because of how it is handled in canon.
Hey, Tony. You hungry? Can I make you breakfast or something?
What do you mean, cook me breakfast instead of falling in love with me?
Yeah.
So yes, that is Burnt. Have you seen this movie? Did you enjoy it? If you did enjoy it, did you come out of it with any ships, or was this something that you weren't aware was happening? And again, do you like these more informal videos, and do you like hearing about smaller fandoms and smaller ships, and these small happenings within medium that you wouldn't think would yield any ships at all? Please let me know, because I have so many. I have so many of these if you're interested. As always, I have to say thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to discuss shipping and fandom with me, especially today when it was very obscure. As always, please be sure to follow on social media, stay up to date with all the things that we're talking about, and to know when we're streaming and all of that other fun stuff. And of course, there's much more to come, so please stay tuned, and let's get to that outro. Bye-bye. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to all of my patrons' names on the side. There are, as always, new videos coming soon, so stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.